lot about AI. It's disrupting society at an exponential rate today. But human culture is still evolving at the same slow, plodding, linear rate that it always has. And that's why the biggest thing to fear in AI ethics and society is not Hollywood's AI overlords like Skynet or the Borg. It's not berserker robots like in Ex Machina or Blade Runner. No, our biggest fear is fear itself. The way that AI amplifies human fear exponentially. The way AI upsets the checks and balances on fear in our age-old social dynamics, turning us upon ourselves through AI-powered social media, driving misinformation, divisiveness, polarization, hatred, and paranoia. While at the same time, AI is arming entire populations with AI-powered weapons of mass destruction, weapons that someone is going to fire out of fear. Now, fear is natural. Our ancestors evolved fear to be our strongest emotion, the strongest motivator in our psychological makeup. Fear drives anger and hatred. But without fear, early human tribes could not have survived the harsh, brutish conditions. Because fear is such a strong motivator psychologically and politically, our civilizations have evolved to exploit fear to construct an efficient world order that stands on 3 legs. The first leg is resource scarcity, which spans Maslow's entire hierarchy of resources. Even as we reach each higher level, we are still fighting for scarce resources, from food to safety, to love, to esteem, to self-actualization. We all work hard in hope of gaining these resources. The second leg is resource allocation, based on competition. Competition operates on fear instead of other emotions, like anticipation or joy or trust. We fight for fear that people we consider to be our own, our in-group, will lose scarce resources to people we consider outsiders or our out-groups. Competition is a self-perpetuating, fear-based game mindset, one that runs through all of Maslow's entire hierarchy. From the bottom, you're fighting from fear of extinction. At the next level, fear of mutilation. At the next level of love and belonging, fighting for fear of rejection. At the next level of esteem, fighting for fear of humiliation. And at the self-actualization level, fighting for fear of meaninglessness. The problem is that competition encourages us to dehumanize those we consider out-groups. Dehumanization is another evolutionary legacy mindset which lets members of one tribe kill outsiders who are perceived as threatening, and to do so without remorse. Again, early civilizations would not have survived without this mindset. And because competition's winner-take-all tendencies keep increasing inequality across all of Maslow's needs, occasionally things have gone out of whack, leading to massive wars, loss of life, misery. In fact, humankind has only survived to today due to the third leg, which is resource bounds on our destructive capacity. It used to be that even under extreme inequity, under extreme stresses, individuals and non-state actors could only inflict limited damage. At the outset of World War II, nuclear weapons hadn't even been invented yet. And the current world order is dependent upon the assumption that weapons of mass destruction require resources at the nation-state level. Until now, this has kept the balance, even with high inequity and massive wars. But today, AI is eliminating resource bounds on destructiveness. Today, cheap meshed fleets of AI-powered armed drones, a la the slaughter bots pictured here from the World Economic Forum's widely discussed short film, which are something that anybody with a modicum of secondary school technical skill can already go and 3D print in their garage by combining easily downloadable plans from the internet. And these are just the tip of the iceberg. From AI-powered military robots to pinpoint targeting, to cyber warfare, to bioweapons created through genetic technologies, AI is rapidly democratizing both physical and informational warfare. Humanity's survival to date has depended on our ability to outrun the destructive technologies we invent. But imagine a world where every human is now equipped with weapons of mass destruction. Non-state actors, criminals, terrorists, disgruntled individuals in their basement. Would you want to take your chances that absolutely not one of those would hit their launch button? That's a really bad bet. What would cause a person to hit their launch button? Loss of hope. And this is the problem. That world is where we are now. It's no longer imaginary science fiction. It is the AI-enabled new world that we are already entering, although most of us aren't wanting to think about it. Losing the third leg is causing the current world order to fall over. The first two legs need to be massively re-architected. Not to be utopic, but we are facing an existential threat that could utterly destroy humanity, because AI in the 21st century is enabling anybody to build or acquire weapons of mass destruction. We must have our eyes open to the urgency of this problem and not simply allow ourselves to be bound by complacency. Resource scarcity? The world already now possesses more than enough economic resources and technological capabilities to go around to all on the planet. It's just that our fear-based system is doing a lousy job of resource allocation. Our problem with sustainability is not just technological capability, which we have enormous amounts of. Our real problem is the social will to allocate those economic resources properly. And the blockages to social will come heavily from fear. Fear of change, fear of loss of familiar patterns of life, fear of losing out to our out groups, fears that are all being exponentially amplified by AI-driven social media. The rise of AI now means that, like many of the other natural traits we've already had to shed, our longtime fear-based order is no longer sustainable. For most, abandoning our fear-based world order is beyond imagination. But if we don't face the unsustainability of fear immediately, humanity's odds of survival in the AI era are slim. We need urgently to explore how to shift our world order from being so based on fear to being instead based on less existentially dangerous emotions. For example, emotions that lie on the anticipation, joy, and trust axes in Plutchik's Wheel of Emotions, which is a widely used psychological model of emotions. It would be foolhardy to underestimate the difficulties of tackling problems in human nature. Fear is biologically evolved, and yet we must be cognizant of the constraints and the timeline we face. AI evolution is racing at an exponential rate, while human cultural evolution is still plodding along at the same old linear rate. And just at a time when we can no longer afford the us and them mindset, not only is our world order still stuck in the old school mindset, but current trends are moving even more regressively toward the polarized politics, parochial mindsets, and ultranationalism that anticipated both world wars. At the global scale, we have increasingly damaging trade wars. At the domestic scale, we have a rapidly multiplying number of societies being dangerously ripped apart by fear-driven social dynamics, exponentially amplified by AI-powered social media. The US, the UK, Ukraine, France's Yellow Vests, Hong Kong, Chile, India, Syria, Lebanon. In the AI era of democratized weapons of mass destruction that are accessible to all, this will doom us. We cannot afford to be overconstrained by incrementalism. Humanity needs cultural hyper-evolution at a pace never before witnessed in history just to keep up with AI evolution. But how on earth can such an enormous, unprecedented shift in culture and mindset possibly happen, especially since so much of this psychology is unconscious? Well, there's a blindingly obvious factor in most approaches that would stand any remote chance of actually working. AI is the only solution to the problems AI is creating. We need AI helping cultural evolution of humans to keep pace with AI hyper-evolution. So what are possible AI approaches to reducing resource scarcity across Maslow's hierarchy of needs? First, we need AI to help with promoting abundance mindsets rather than scarcity mindsets, because the world now does have more than enough wealth. Second, AI could be deployed to do mass-scale analysis of multi-objective optimization of, say, taxation levels versus social benefits. Third, AI could be applied to the challenge of predicting optimal variations of universal basic income schemes. And what are possible AI approaches to rethinking resource allocation via fear-based competition? First, for example, AI could be deployed for antitrust analysis at a much more effective large scale, where human efforts today are bottlenecked by the limitations of how much humans can do. Second, AI could be applied as planning agents to cope with centralized planning and coordination complexity, which has always been a challenge for humans, but while handling decentralized planning objectives. Third, AI could be deployed toward the challenge of reducing the size of outgroups and the intensity of demonization to help us humans to increase empathy and counter destructive fear-mongering. AI needs to be helping us humans with empathy, because empathy is expensive. Empathy is affordable to those with sufficient means. We're not just talking about sympathy. We're not just talking about knee-jerk, unconscious, reflexive empathy like in mirror neurons. Rather, we're talking here about conscious empathy, where you truly take yourself out of your own mindset, out of your own in-group's tribal mindset, and instead put yourself into the head space and the heart space of a culturally different outgroup, of another tribe. This requires a heavy cognitive load. It's more than most of those who are struggling to feed themselves and their families can typically afford to do very much of. And like other cognitively expensive and difficult tasks, like the maps and contacts on my phone, AI can help us, because we can no longer afford the us and them mindset. We need AI to help us to make the cognitively challenging shift to a mindset of from me to we. And we need that far more broadly accessible than it is today. Human culture is a heavily linguistic construct. Language shapes how we frame ideas, aspirations, concerns, in ways that invoke fear or trust or joy or anticipation, etc. And language promotes mindsets like abundance versus scarcity. My AI research lab pioneered things like Google or Microsoft or Yahoo Translate. But today, our research program has been making an even more ambitious paradigm shift to advance from just language translation instead to cultural translation. Because in the AI era, it's absolutely crucial that we develop AI to help humans with the cognitively difficult task of better understanding, better relating to how others frame things. Remember, the way we ended up with our many current political dysfunctions was by not hearing from outside our own culture bubbles, by not thinking through the unintended consequences, by not addressing fear from our outside culture bubbles. AI needs to be democratizing empathy, not weapons of mass destruction. We desperately need help to listen to each other, suspending our fear, whether or not our cultures agree. We cannot allow AI-powered fear-mongering to drive our civilizations headlong into mutually assured destruction. Because fear is an effective but dangerous objective function. And in the AI era, fear is an exponentially dangerous objective function. The biggest fear in the era of AI is fear itself. Thank you.